Welcome back to another video. I finally managed to get hold of a torch for testing. This was sent in via BanTac / Ruyu, which is another name for BanTac. It's the Seeker 2 Pro from Olight. Been a while since I looked at a light, but we'll run through the normal procedure, looking at the back of the box, give you an idea of the spec. This one goes up to 3200 lumens and we have 5 power levels in total. Packaging on the newer Olights is a lot easier to get into. You just have the magnetic carton and take out the plastic cover. That just gives you some basic instructions on charging, and here we have all the items neatly packaged away in their own boxes. So we'll take those out and I will go through each one of these individually. I've laid out most of the items here so you'll be able to see exactly what you get included in the package. Holster is very much in the same style as the Olight Warrior one, and that's a good thing because you have that plastic D-loop on the top, the metal popper with the double loop behind it. I just think it's a nice holster. It's quite a snug fit. There's your hole on the bottom which is sewn around so that lets out any water. It's just a really nice snug fitting holster, and I think it's a good design myself. Has a bit of felt padding on the inside and offers a reasonable amount of protection for the light. Let's take a closer look at the light, and this is quite a small torch actually. It's much smaller than I was expecting. They're using the 21700 battery, and look at those silicone grips on the side. They're sculpted or moulded to the shape of fingers, and you have them going almost the whole way around. Just a bit of a gap there with the metal section. Be interesting to see how it holds up to long-term use. Another neat little feature is the LED lights. You have the battery on the right and the power levels 1 to 4 on the left. That's shared with the lowest output and the moonlight. I just like it. It looks really good and it's quite practical. Gives you a good idea of the battery level that you have remaining. If the battery level gets low, the red light comes on as I've shown you in the picture. On the underside of the light we have the contacts for the magnetic charging. If I just unscrew that, once again we have another custom battery from Olight with the positive and negative connections at the one end, so it connects with the tail cap. Downside to that is going to be that you can only use this battery for in-torch charging. I'll show you some other batteries later on that you can potentially use with that. I just really think it's time to move past the custom battery design. I had hoped with the Warrior that we'd gone past that, but you do get it included, and I just thought I'd mention that as a potential downside. On the upside, we do have a much higher capacity compared to a traditional 18650, or with the previous versions, the 26650 cell. It saves quite a bit of size and weight. 3 LEDs on this, the XPL HD, and it's cool white, and they have the optical lenses in front of the LEDs. I do find this a very comfortable torch to hold. Those grips are very nice and tactile. They're kind of medium texture, and they also medium density. They're not super soft, but they're not really hard. But I can't really say at this stage how well they'll hold up long term. Here is the magnetic charging cable, the 1 amp version, and that's around about 1.2 meters in length, so quite a bit longer than the previous ones. Also included is a docking mount which is L-shaped, so the idea with this is to put the torch up into it. This is really designed for use in home. There's your sticky pad on the back, and you connect the magnetic charging to the contact points at the top. Once it's in place, it's pretty secure on there. The only thing to note with this is that it's good enough for at home. In other words, it's not going to fall out, and you notice the increase in magnetic strength when you put the charging cable on top. It's not going to work if you put this into a vehicle because there's too much movement and it could knock it out. Don't know whether that's an issue for you. Perhaps if they had a sort of dual system which worked for both, that might be better. There's your spare pads that you get, raw plugs and screws if you want to screw that in, and they also give you a microfiber cloth, 2 cable clips with the sticky pads on the back, 3M, just to keep the cables tidy, and you also get a battery box that's included. One thing that is missing, and you'll notice, is there's no clip on this torch and there's nowhere to put one. That's something which I would have liked to have seen. In case you're wondering, the older magnetic charging cables work fine with this, so they're not going to be quite as fast in terms of the charging speed. I have a flat top 21700 and I've had to add 2 magnetic spacers to that so it reaches the contact points. So if you do want to use other batteries, you can use this in the torch. Downside is you can't charge it, but that is something to bear in mind, and that's why I'm not a big fan of the custom batteries. Olight user interface, very simple on this, on and off single press, and it does have a mode memory, though not for the strobe or the turbo. And if you want to change power levels, just push and hold and it cycles through and then let go. To get to your moonlight level, you need to push and hold that in for about a second and it takes you straight to that. The lockout, you just push and hold for 2 seconds and then you'll see the LED on the side light up to tell you it's locked out. Just long press again to unlock. Turbo can be accessed from on or off with a double press on the side switch. You can go to the strobe mode with a triple press, again on or off, straight to that, and you can go either off or back to the previous power setting. The other feature is the timer settings, which I've shown you on screen. I don't use those myself, but they're there in case you want to. Quick look at the user guide on the screen, pretty straightforward and simple. One mistake I spotted is you have the 3 levels that you cycle and it lists it as 4. You have to press the long press for the moonlight or the double press for the turbo. That's not in the main setting. Quick visual comparison next to the Rofus MR50. It's slightly taller on the Olight. One thing both of these lights lack is a clip. You just don't have an option for one, and I do really wish that you could have a clip on these lights. I just find it easier to carry myself. It does roll around, but if you put the head out a bit on a flat surface, if you can, onto the side switch, that will prevent any problems with that. There is a slight magnetic base, but it's not enough to hold the light. No issues to report with the water resistance. Charging speeds are a bit below the 1 amp. I found that couldn't really get over the 900 milliamps, and it took about 6 hours 40 minutes to charge, although the battery capacity was pretty close to the 5000 milliamp hour. Let's take a look at a few of the beam shots outside. Starting off at 1200 lumens, you'll be able to see slightly warmer tint on the Olight, even though it's a cool white emitter. Moving up to the top, 3200 turbo setting, you can really see the light spreading out. Those TIR optical emitters do give you that big hotspot effect. Nightcore EC30 at 1800 lumens, just to give you a comparison. And I've also took a few shots with the Rofus MR50. It's not quite as much power. You wouldn't really notice the difference in power between these two, but you do have a slightly tighter hotspot on the Rofus, which would explain why it's rated for a slightly longer range. Not that that's something you'd notice out and about using both of these lights. Just to give you a quick summary on the Olight and how I feel about it, I quite like the torch, particularly in terms of the design and the ergonomics. The grip on this is very comfortable, feels very good in the hand, good output from the triple LED emitters, and you also have those nice LED indicators with the battery level and power output. Very straightforward and well matured user interface. The most obvious drawback for me is the custom battery again, and I would have liked to have had an option for a clip. You also don't get a wrist strap included with this for some reason, even though there is an attachment point for one. Certainly not a cheap torch either. It is perhaps a bit on the pricey side for some, but I do quite like this. Let me know what you think in the comments section if you've used one of these or you're thinking about one, and thanks for watching the video. I'll catch you soon.